right? So, I mean, this is definitely a very interesting topic. And to present the topic, we do have with us Ritesh Chandra. Ritesh, first and foremost, welcome and thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, hi everyone. A very good morning to all of you. Good morning, Nitish. It's heartening to see you all here.
Our pleasure, and like again, really a warm welcome. Just to briefly introduce Ritesh before I hand over the session to him. Ritesh has been a seasoned banker with like more than 1.5 decades of experience in various areas, particularly related to credit and risk management. And he was actually working as a president of one of the leading private sector banks. Ritesh, prior to that, he was in IT consulting and has worked in various roles in India, China, and Canada. He's very passionate about teaching, and he has been conducting workshops and training programs for last 6-7 years. His passion for teaching is so much that Ritesh has actually taken a sabbatical, and he is concentrating on like again sharing his profound knowledge with different kinds of people, students, professionals. So his primary interest areas are credit risk, quantitative finance, statistical learning. Ritesh has done his PGDM from IIM Calcutta, and he has a BTech from IIT Kanpur. He is also a member of Board of Studies in the area of finance management at IMD Ghaziabad. So yeah, I mean, he has been working with a lot of in the field of machine learning and these areas as well recently very strongly, right? So I'll hand over the session to Ritesh, but before that, maybe a quick lowdown on like again how we would go about in the session. So as you all know, the main topic discussion would be for a period of about 1 hour, and post that we would be having a Q&A session. So we want our sessions to be very interactive, so please feel free to type in your questions, queries, whatever you feel that you want to understand. I mean, whenever you have any queries, please feel free to type in now or during the session, post the session. Anytime you have any questions, please feel free to type in. We'll be very happy to take up your questions. Right. So with that, I'll hand over the session to Ritesh. Ritesh, I'm making you the presenter, and whenever you're ready, please feel free to start.
Just a second. Somehow it is not sharing my screen. Just a sec. Why is it happening like that?
No worries. Let me reshare the screen with give you the presenter, right? Yeah, I'm made the presenter again.
Just a sec.
Yes, Ritesh, we can see your screen. So please feel free to proceed. And yeah.
Okay, just a sec. Okay, so hi everyone. Very good morning to all of you, and thank you to IIQF for inviting me for this session. And thank you to all of you for having found time on a Sunday to come and attend this session. The topic of the session, as Nitish already mentioned in his conversation, was that it's about ChatGPT for finance professionals. So what I'm trying to do today, what I'm going to try to do today is we will look at some of the basic aspects of what ChatGPT is all about. I'm sure all of you are already aware about how to use ChatGPT, but we will still just start with an overview, and then we will talk about the whole idea of what prompts are, uh, why do most of the people fail to realize the potential of prompts, how to write good prompts, the basic characteristics of good prompt writing, And finally, we will look at some of the use cases as far as financial analysis is concerned. But before that, see, while ChatGPT itself or these agentic AI or chatbots or what you call Gen AI, generative AI, they have not been more than a few years old, but they are really transforming the way we are going to work, the way we are going to learn, the way we are going to conduct a significant portions of our lives. Okay, there are both the good aspects, bad aspects, but going forward, I believe that while ChatGPT may not completely replace human beings as part of the workforce or at the workplace, but it is going to be a very critical element of your day-to-day work profile. And in fact, some of the people are already saying that the big challenge is how do you make that cultural shift to a Gen AI first approach? Because by and large, and I would count myself in that, we are essentially a Google first generation. So anytime we have a problem, our basic approach is, our first instinct is to Google about it. And that's what organizations will have to change, that instead of Googling for it or instead of looking at it from other aspects, how can you use ChatGPT or Gen AI as the first tool that you are going to use to understand the problem, to create a draft of the problem, to create a basic template. So that's the fundamental idea. Now, all of you are aware about what this Gen AI itself is. So ChatGPT essentially is nothing but part of a Gen AI. As you know, Gen AI is you can think of it as a subset of artificial intelligence or machine learning. Uh, how it is different from conventional or traditional machine learning is that you are able to generate new data samples, which are similar in nature to what the chatbot has seen in the past. So what essentially you do as part of Gen AI is you learn the patterns, structures, the features of input data, and then you use this knowledge to create entirely new data samples, which could be in the form of images, they could be in the form of text, they could be in the form of sound. Uh, some of the common tools that we use as part of Gen AI, so you have something called generative adversarial network or GAN, where you have two neural networks, a generator and a discriminator, and they are made to compete against one another. The generator will produce the data. The discriminator will evaluate the authenticity of the data. The discriminator essentially tries to discriminate between real data and fake data. And by doing this iteratively, the generator is going to improve its output. So that's the principle of GAN. And then you have other generative models like variational autoencoders, or what you call VAEs. They also find a lot of application in areas like image synthesis, style transfer. So the whole appeal of generative AI or Gen AI is that you can understand complex data distributions and then you can simulate them or you can mimic them. So that's pretty much about Gen AI. Then you have the language models. Language models, or what you call large language models, the basic idea is that these models are designed to understand and to generate human language. Okay, and there are different architectural approaches that people have taken in the past. So you don't have a single large language model. You have a number of approaches. So the earliest ones were what you call the n-grams or the n-gram language model. Here, what you did, you tried to predict the next word in a sequence based on the preceding words in the sequence. So if you have a sequence of n minus 1 words, based on that, you will try to predict the nth word. Okay, this has been historically used in spell checking systems and basic text prediction. Then you had something called recurrent neural networks, RNNs. They essentially process sequence of data by maintaining a memory from previous steps. So by maintaining the memory, it allows them to capture information from earlier parts of the sequence and use it to influence later predictions. RNNs have been extensively used as part of sentiment analysis and for machine model-based translation. Then people came up with something called LSTM, or long short-term memory networks. This is a special kind of recurrent neural network, but it includes some mechanism to remember and forget information selectively. Okay. Uh, LSTMs have been very widely used in time series forecasting, in machine translation, and in speech recognition. And then finally, you had the transformer model. So I think in 2017, there was a paper published by OpenAI, probably, which said that the paper was titled, "Attention is all you need." Attention is all you need. That paper described what transformer models are. What transformer models do, they utilize something called self-attention mechanism. Self-attention mechanism to weigh or to put weights on input data differently. The purpose is, or the objective is, that by using this self-attention mechanism, the model will be able to focus on more relevant parts of the input for different tasks. And since then, for all the natural language processing related tasks, text generation, machine translation, question answering, transformer models have been the preferred architecture. Then you had something called BERT, bidirectional encoder representation from transformers. These are pre-trained transformer models which can consider the context both from the left and the right side of a word, making it bidirectional. And then you have the latest one called GPT, or the generative pre-trained transformer. The difference between BERT and GPT is BERT essentially was trained to predict masked words in a sequence. The words which were masked in a sequence. That's why BERT have been used a lot for sentiment analysis. Whereas when it comes to GPT, it has been trained to predict the next word in the sequence. So that makes GPT a truly generative model. So just to give you a highlight of the different types of language models. Now we will jump to the matter at hand. So all of you know what prompts are. So when you have to engage with a ChatGPT or a Claude or a Midjourney, how do you provide input? You provide input in the form of a text string that is called prompt. So prompt essentially is your interface with ChatGPT. What does the prompt do? It essentially provides a set of instructions to the model to predict the desired response. Okay, so if it's a large language model like ChatGPT, the prompt will be in the form of a text. If these are diffusion models like say Midjourney, the prompt will be in the form of an image. Okay, let me give you a small example. So my ChatGPT, for example, say I write, can I have a list of product names for a pair of shoes that can fit any foot size? And it gives you a list of names. Now, why these prompts are important? Because for the same task, you can ask the AI model in many different ways. And even if you change the prompt a bit, it can make a big difference to the final answer. So what these LLMs do, they essentially work by continuously predicting the next token. They continuously predict the next token based on what was in your prompt. and each new token is selected based on its probability of appearing next. And of course, there will be an element of randomness, but the whole idea is to predict the next token. Now, these LLMs have essentially been trained on the entire text of the internet, and they have been fine-tuned to give helpful responses. But what happens is, because the response or the output is ultimately based on the prompt or the input that you have provided, if you give an average prompt, you will end up with an average response. And then you will think, oh, ChatGPT is useless or it is not helping me. What you put up in your prompt changes the probability of every word of output that ChatGPT generates. Therefore, crafting a relevant prompt, a good prompt, matters a lot in terms of the results that you are going to get. Okay, that's the basic essence. Why do prompts matter? Because depending on how you have crafted your prompt, the result can be very, very different. And therefore, you have this entire field of prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is all about discovering the art of writing good prompts, which will yield you useful results, desirable results. That's the whole thing about prompt engineering, how to write prompts that will give me superior result. Okay, uh, let me show you a small example for that. Now, since you understand about prompts, let's leave this slide. The reason most of the people are not able to utilize the power of the model is because we as a whole, we are using the prompt how we search Google. Our mindset still continues to be that of Google, where we are searching for things and using the PageRank algorithm. Google shows you what it feels is the most relevant web page. And we bring that same mindset to ChatGPT, and then we feel dissatisfied with the results. Okay. Why does it matter? Because if you write bad prompts, the effectiveness, the utility, the quality of your response goes down, especially if you are performing a complex task, say as in finance. Okay. Uh, some of the issues, or in my opinion, how bad prompts look like. One of the issues is bad prompts are vague. So for example, if I write something like analyze my portfolio, say the prompt is analyze my portfolio, it's a vague prompt. It leads to a very generic, incomplete response because ChatGPT cannot infer things that you did not mention, like what is your risk tolerance, what are the different asset classes in your portfolio, what is the goal of investment for you. So you receive a very broad, generic answer that fails to meet your objectives. It does not contain any actionable items. Okay, uh, so that is one aspect that I have seen. Vague or ambiguous prompts. Then a lot of times we tend to create prompts which are way too simple compared to the complexity of the task. So for example, if you write a prompt like optimize my investment, it does not provide any context, it does not provide any constraint, means ChatGPT's answer is not going to be an optimal answer. Okay, or say you write a prompt like give me a financial report. You don't mention any scenarios, you don't mention any KPIs, you don't mention any metrics. The summary will be very generic and shallow. Third problem, often you don't provide context. So for example, one of the most useful things you can do is if you are asking ChatGPT a finance related question, as part of your prompt, just mention act as a financial analyst. When you say that act as a financial analyst, the chatbot goes into that role and it starts to customize its terminology, the approach, and the tone of the answer to that particular role. So if you use that keyword, say act as a financial analyst or act as a hedge fund manager, you will get more nuanced, more specific answers. Okay. Then a lot of times people don't specify the format in which they want the answer. So if you don't specify the format, the response will not be very well structured. But this is one of the most useful things I have found when you are crafting your prompt. Specify how you want it to be formatted, like a list, bullet points, or in the form of a table. You will get much better answers. Then sometimes prompts can be crafted in such a manner that they contradict. So for example, sometimes I saw a prompt which says, optimize my portfolio and explain all the finance terms. ChatGPT gets confused. It gives incomplete answer. Okay. Uh, or say, summarize my portfolio and predict the market trend. ChatGPT gives a very brief, generic, unfocused response, which does not contain critical details. Okay. Finally, you have to realize that crafting a good prompt will be an iterative exercise. You will never get the perfect or the desired answer in the first go itself. You will need to craft a basic prompt, look at the result, then modify or refine the prompt. If you keep doing that, you will find that the quality of your answer keeps getting improved. Okay. And finally, the last problem that I want to talk about is sometimes you over rely on ChatGPT assumptions. So for example, uh, things like what's the best investment or forecast my portfolio without giving historical returns, without giving asset details, that will always result in speculative, inaccurate predictions. And a lot of times you will find that the ChatGPT or the chatbot is hallucinating. It is giving you answers which don't make any sense. Okay, so let me just show you some examples. So how would a bad prompt look like? Say optimize my portfolio of stocks. No details on portfolio size, no detail on assets, no goals, no constraints, nothing. The output you will get would be a very long, unstructured paragraph, and you will not get any benefit out of that. Okay, how you could have put up a good prompt here? Let me show you how a good prompt will look like. Act as a portfolio manager, optimize a $1 million portfolio with 60% stocks, 30% bonds, 10% cash, targeting an 8% annual return with max 12% volatility. Use sample assets, stock A, stock B, bond C, suggest weights in a table and explain the trade-offs. Now you run the prompt. So you have specified everything to ChatGPT. It has become more specific. You have included the role, you have included the format, structuring, and you have also mentioned the constraints. Okay, you can see here constraints and goals. Now in a tabular format, it is showing you the sample asset. It is showing you the optimized portfolio allocation, portfolio metrics, expected return, portfolio volatility, what are the trade-offs and rationale. And suddenly this looks like a much superior answer compared to the bad prompt optimize my portfolio of stocks? Okay, this is a much more relevant answer. And these things matter because if you craft bad prompts, your time gets wasted, your effort gets wasted, you have to do a lot of manual rework, and your response may be incomplete or outright inaccurate. Okay, so now let's talk about just some key principles for how to write good prompts. Clarity, the prompt should be unambiguous, and I will show you examples also. Avoid any complex language that the AI might misinterpret. That's one thing. Provide context, background information that will help the AI model understand the scenario, the setting, the characters, the specific details which are relevant to the task. So clarity, context, be specific, clearly define what you want the AI to do. The more specific your prompt is, more likely you will get a precise response. Be concise, keep the prompt as concise as possible. Does not mean that you don't provide necessary details. If you make very long, rambling prompts, it can confuse the model, poor results. And finally, the prompt should be relevant. You have to ensure that every part of the prompt is relevant to the task that you are trying to solve. Don't put irrelevant details in the prompt. Some of the techniques which I have personally used and found very, very useful. Start with simple prompts. If you have to solve a complex task, it's highly likely that you will not be able to figure out all aspects in the first go itself. Start with simple, straightforward prompts and gradually add complexity as per your requirement. This helps you understand how the AI model is answering your questions. Iterate and refine. Keep refining your prompts based on the AI model's response. Experiment with different wordings, different structures to improve the output. Give examples to the AI model. If you give examples, it's like guiding the AI model, and it also clarifies your expectations. Use templates. Again, very, very useful thing. Create and use templates for common tasks. If you use templates, your prompts structure will be standardized, and you can save time when you are doing repetitive tasks. And ask direct questions. If you seek specific information, you have to ask a direct question, and ChatGPT is more likely to give you a direct, accurate, and relevant response. Okay. Some of the advanced prompt engineering techniques, and I will give you an example for these as well. So you have something called contextual prompt. In contextual prompt, what you do is you provide additional background information, or you set a specific context that guides the AI model's response. How does it help? It helps ChatGPT understand the scenario better and generate more relevant outputs. That is the idea behind contextual prompt. If I can give you an example, look at this prompt. Given the current economic environment with rising interest rates and a tech sector slowdown, analyze company X's debt sustainability. Company X has 2025 revenue of $50 million, EBITDA $10 million, debt $20 million. Provide a debt to EBITDA ratio and a brief assessment in 2 paragraphs. Okay, and you will. So you have set the context, the current economic environment, and a tech sector slowdown, and you will find that ChatGPT will give a more relevant answer. So that is called context-based prompting. Okay. Then you have something called iterative prompting. In iterative prompting, what we do is you start with a basic prompt and then you refine it step by step based on the response that ChatGPT is giving you. Why does it benefit, or why is it beneficial? This approach helps you gradually build up complexity and make the task more and more refined and more specific. So for example, uh, let me show you a prompt. Say this is the prompt. Act as a portfolio manager, optimize $1 million portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, 8% target return, use some sample assets, suggest weights in a table. Okay, it gives you a response. Now, if you want to refine this, look at the response. The assets that have been provided in a tabular format, constraints and targets. Let's find the stock bond weights that achieve 8% return. And then it gives you the optimized portfolio allocation, the portfolio matrix, and a summary. Okay. Then you can refine it. You can say that using the previous portfolio optimization, adjust for a new constraint, say maximum volatility of 12%, recalculate the weights in a table, and explain the impact of the volatility constraint in 2 sentences. It does it again, but now you have added a new constraint. So the initial constraint was only about the return. Then in the second iteration, you brought the idea of a volatility constraint. Okay, so this is I personally find this a very, very useful technique when you have to do a complex task. Break up the task, start with the simplest level of complexity or the most simple task, and then keep building up the complexity depending on what answer did the ChatGPT model provide you. Okay, and then another very useful technique which I have found is what you call COT or chain of thought prompts. Here again, you break down a complex task into a series of smaller manageable steps. This helps the AI maintain its focus and provide a coherent answer. Okay, I'll show you an example. So this is act as a financial analyst. Calculate the intrinsic value of a stock using the DCF method for a company with 5-year free cash flows. Show your step-by-step reasoning, including NPV calculation, terminal value, and final valuation in a clear format. This is the chain of thought, that how did the AI model arrive at the final answer? And you will find that it breaks down everything into steps. Again, a very, very powerful technique, especially when you are doing a complex finance related task. Chain of thought prompt. Okay. So just to summarize, suppose you are a risk manager, you want to evaluate a leveraged ETF exposure. Okay. Say this is my data. It gives you the analysis. If you write a prompt like, is this ETF risky? It will give you a generic answer. This is a poor prompt. It simply says, yes, this 2x leverage ETF is risky, and it provides you the results, the reasons. Leverage amplifies volatility, compounding effect over time. Very, very generic answer. How can you craft an advanced prompt here? If I have to craft an advanced prompt here, I will say, act as a risk manager, assess the risk of a 2x leverage S&P 500 ETF with $500 million AUM, 30% volatility, beta 2.0 for a hedge fund with a fixed 15% max VAR limit, value at risk. Provide a risk profile in a table including VAR drawdown potential and 3 mitigation strategies. And now you look at the quality of the response. Key assumptions and inputs. Then it calculates the value at risk. It compares the VAR with the fund's 15% max VAR limit. It assesses the drawdown potential. It draws the risk profile table. And finally, it provides the mitigation strategies. Reduce exposure, implement hedging techniques. Now, these are relevant mitigating strategies for you. You can see just by changing the quality of the prompt, the quality of the response improved so much. Okay. So we looked at what Gen AI is, what these large language models are, and what is a prompt, what is prompt engineering, characteristics of a bad prompt, and how to write good prompts. Okay, so I mean, talking about prompt itself is a huge exercise, will take a lot of time. Now what I will do is I will spend some time showing you how you can use ChatGPT for various finance related tasks. One of the most common use is using ChatGPT for creating financial summaries and financial reports and financial analysis. So suppose I want to create a multi-scenario financial summary report, a report which talks about different scenarios. So what I'll do is I create a prompt which contains all the relevant information and all the good aspects of prompt writing. Act as a financial analyst role, analyze company's performance under 3 2025 scenarios: base, bullish, bearish. Create a report with a table comparing revenue, EBITDA margin, and debt to EBITDA ratio, plus a 2-paragraph narrative discussing risks and opportunities. You are being specific, you are being concise, and you are also giving a structure to the entire task. You are asking ChatGPT to produce the result in a given format. And now you see the performance is evaluated under 3 different scenarios: base, bull, and bear. Look at the performance table, debt to EBITDA, and finally it gives the narrative analysis. That means the risk analysis, where it makes the relevant points that debt to EBITDA ratio is rising to 3.33 in the bearish case, indicating a heavier debt burden. What can the higher debt to EBITDA ratio do? It could restrict access to future financing or refinancing. And what is the opportunity in the bull case? So you can see by using this prompt, you were effectively able to do a complete multi-scenario financial report. I mean, I'm just showing you a basic way of doing this. For real world applications, you will have to do this in multiple steps, adding on complexity. Okay. The idea of showing this prompt was that you can use ChatGPT to automate complex scenario-based reporting. Okay. You can also use ChatGPT for data analytics, advanced financial data analysis. I will show you how to conduct a Monte Carlo simulation. So you are a finance professional. You have to conduct or you have to estimate a portfolio's return distribution using a Monte Carlo simulation. So what would I say? I created a prompt saying, act as a data scientist, describe how to run a Monte Carlo simulation for a portfolio with stock A, return, volatility, stock B, their correlation over 1 year, 10,000 iterations, provide a step-by-step methodology, estimate the 5th percentile return, and summarize the findings in 3 bullet points. You can see here, role, act as a data scientist, exactly what you want to do, a Monte Carlo simulation, necessary data, how many iterations, time horizon, chain of thought, step-by-step methodology, what do you exactly want, a 5th percentile return, and finally structure everything in 3 bullet points. You see Monte Carlo simulation, step-by-step methodology, define the portfolio parameters, generate random returns for each asset. You can see it tells you everything in detail, the exact methodology that is being followed. How do you simulate the correlated returns? So it tells you how do you account for correlation using the Cholesky decomposition. So Cholesky decomposition is a very popular technique in linear algebra and matrix algebra to generate a set of correlated returns. So using the correlation matrix, it generates the correlated returns. Finally, it runs the simulation, it calculates the 5th percentile return, and it summarizes the finding, and it even gives you Python code for doing the entire thing. So you just have to copy that in a Jupyter notebook, and you can run your analysis, and then it gives you the key finding summary. Okay, so I showed you how to run a decent Monte Carlo simulation, where it explains you the entire methodology and what is its key finding. Okay, you could have even tweaked this. Once you have done this Monte Carlo simulation and you got the distribution, you could have said, suggest a hedging strategy to reduce my downside risk. It will give you all the hedging strategies like protective puts, inverse ETFs, how to do tail risk hedging, long vol strategy, risk parity strategy, diversification across asset classes. Again, this was a highly complex task, running a Monte Carlo simulation. If you have to do it in Excel using, say, a VBA code, ChatGPT makes the entire thing so simple that you can spend more time on understanding the nuances of Monte Carlo simulation, what are the limitations of the results, and how do you infer from the results, and what do you do with them. Similarly, other complex tasks like stress testing, they can be done using ChatGPT. Okay. So financial analysis, then we looked at data analytics, statistics. ChatGPT is also a very, very effective tool to learn Excel and any programming language. Now you don't need to spend weeks and months. You can run it on the fly. For example, suppose you want to learn how to build a DCF or a discounted cash flow model in Excel and in Python. Okay, let me give you a prompt for this. Act as an Excel expert, provide a step-by-step guide to build a DCF model in Excel for a company with 5-year free cash flow of so much, 10% discount rate, 3% terminal growth, include formulas for NPV and terminal value. You can see the prompt has been structured to ask the relevant questions, to provide the required information, and to guide ChatGPT as to what we actually want. And if you run this prompt, it will tell you step by step what is the structure of your Excel sheet, how do you input the. So now what you can do is, once you go through these steps, you can actually open your Excel and just keep doing what it is asking you to do. You input the free cash flow, it is giving you the cell numbers where you should input the data. Then it is telling you how to calculate the discount factor. Again, it is giving you detailed formulae and which cells you have to use the formula into. Finally, it gives you the discounted free cash flow, calculate the terminal value, discount the terminal value to present value, calculate the NPV, and the final output. So even if you did not have much idea about how to implement this in Excel, ChatGPT helped you understand and learn about it. Very powerful learning tool. And now you can go and implement it in Excel directly. One thing that you should remember is never share your confidential corporate data as part of ChatGPT. What you can simply do is you have to calculate NPV, use some dummy data, understand the methodology, and then do it yourself. So it gives you a complete guide of NPV calculation in Excel with formulae, with cells, everything. Now suppose you want to do the same thing in Python. Okay, now I don't know how to code this in Python. Very simple. Act as a Python tutor, write a Python script to calculate the same DCF model using NumPy, explain each line and handle the edge cases like negative FCF, negative free cash flow. And you can see it will generate a Python code for me. And that's why I was telling you in the beginning of the session, it will never replace you completely from the workforce, but it can be used as a huge productivity enhancement tool. It can help you learn things faster. It can help you do the preliminary work so that you can concentrate on the more critical aspects of your job. You can see here, complete Python code, inputs, validation where you are handling the extreme cases, discounting, how to discount the free cash flows, how to compute the terminal value, how to calculate the total NPV, and finally print everything. And it explains all the lines. Why? Because as part of the prompt, we asked it to explain each line. You can see a well-crafted prompt can tell you everything. Okay, so I showed you a few examples. How do you use it for as a teacher for Python, any programming language, whether it is Python, whether it is R, whether it is Go, whether it is SQL, how to understand, get an understanding of financial models, how to use it for financial analysis, how to use it for data analytics, statistics related course work, how to use ChatGPT to perform, scenario based analysis and create financial reports. Okay, so all of these things can be achieved using ChatGPT. In fact, I mean, we can spend 10 hours more where we can pick up everything, every single thing from finance, and I can show you how you can ease your task using ChatGPT. But for the time being, I think this should be enough. The idea was to show you that a lot of complex finance related work can be performed using ChatGPT in a better, more efficient manner. What is the key? The key is number one, you need to have domain knowledge. Domain knowledge is something that you still need to have because only then you will be able to craft a good prompt. So you will need domain knowledge and then you will need the ability to write a good prompt. Ability to write a good prompt is about two aspects. Number one, your language. What are the words that you use? And secondly, your understanding of how the model itself processes the prompt. Okay. And I think this is going to be a huge skill going forward in terms of how efficient or how good you are at writing well-crafted prompts. Okay, so these are some of the aspects that I wanted to talk about. Over to you, Nitish. I'm happy for any questions.
No, wonderful. Actually, like it was really a very engrossing session, quite informative. And in fact, actually, a lot of people have misconceptions regarding this, all this AI tools, including GPT models, where people think that they will all be replaced. But thanks for allaying that fear as well, that humans are not going anywhere. And in fact, domain knowledge is always the key. This is also, I tell like to all young people I interact with, don't think that like again, I mean, domain knowledge is not important. I mean, any AI tool that you use, to use it properly, again, you need to first understand the domain in deep, right? So without that, nothing is happening.
If I can interrupt, domain knowledge is becoming more important because see, earlier to
Absolutely.
solve a problem, you needed domain knowledge plus the ability to program. That ability to program, my belief is, for a large part will get completely commoditized.
Correct.
I mean, generating a Python script or generating a program in any language is no longer going to be the big deal. The big deal will be your ability to figure out what is the business problem, what do you want to achieve, use ChatGPT as some kind of a assistant to give you the first cut of your work, and then apply your mind and your knowledge to refine it and come up with a highly nuanced, a well-crafted, I would say, response to the business problem. And whatever
Absolutely.
data you have, how do you infer that data? How do you do data storytelling? These are the softer skills that are going to become more important. Probably the hard skill of whether you know C and I know C++, sooner or later, that will really not matter.
Yeah, true. But what I have noticed also is, I mean, while we actually, I mean, work with a lot of programming languages and all that, at least as of now, what happens is like, again, we have seen like a lot of this GPT tools and all, they sometimes make mistakes as well. But to understand that mistake, you still need to understand the programming part as well, not the domain. Because if you do not understand the programming language, sometimes it's very difficult to even catch if there is any mistake, or like again, if the result is not right, right?
I
So
agree.
at least as of now, again, I mean, if you're using a programming language, I mean, you still need to understand the nuances, but you are absolutely right. A lot of your
Agree.
routine work becomes very easy.
See, what I was trying to tell was a lot of us, and because I have been a finance professional, a lot of us may have no idea about coding. Okay. For those people, so Nitish, you are absolutely right that if you work in a hedge fund, if you work in an investment bank where you're doing high-end stuff, that is important. But for a lot of basic finance related work in finance and accounts role, even if you don't know the programming language, you can use the power of ChatGPT to learn that and to automate those tasks. So that I think is a big bridge in terms of skill.
True. All right. Okay. So before we go into the Q&A, I mean, maybe just to give a couple of minutes breather to you as well, and like again, maybe I'll take this opportunity to uh, maybe like again speak about very briefly about ourselves as well, right? So I mean, allow us maybe just like a couple of minutes for a very quick intro. I mean, a lot of people who are part of our webinar series, we have been conducting this deep dive with IIQF expert series for quite some time now. It's like, in fact, it's more than 3-4 years now. And I mean, as you all know, I represent Indian Institute of Quantitative Finance, a body which specialize in education and training in the field of quantitative finance, financial engineering, risk management, quantitative algorithmic trading, and of course, now like a great part of the focus is in teaching artificial intelligence and machine learning in context of finance, right? So we were found by pioneers in the field of the quant investment banking, risk management, and all these areas, right? And I mean, for those who have interest in building careers in advanced analytical fields in finance, be it quantitative finance or financial engineering, algorithmic trading, risk management, or going forward, becoming an expert in machine learning, data science areas in finance. So we have very well-crafted courses to prepare both students and professionals who want to deep dive into these fields. Very deep certificate programs, like certificate program in financial engineering, complex mathematical modeling based course teaching you deep quant areas in derivative valuation pricing. Those who don't want to go into that heavy mathematics and still want to understand the quant field, maybe the quantitative finance and risk management course, which teaches again the things very deeply without going into too heavy mathematics. Or if you want to become an algo trader, then again understanding the both all aspects of algo trading. Using normal finance strategies as well as going into quant and machine learning based strategies, and how to build algo systems out. And specifically in modern context, current context, being AI and machine learning and data science and all of this being huge areas nowadays. As with every other industry, finance is also where we are using all this very, very deeply, right? This is almost becoming an omnipresent skill, right? So yes, we do have specific courses to train you for AI and machine learning and data science in finance. And a good thing is all of these programs actually are all part-time, live, online, lecture-based courses. So these are courses where you can build your skills and then maybe progress in your career along with your full-time degree programs or along with your full-time jobs that you are doing, right? So this allows you to the liberty to actually continue with your current life and still learn and progress. And of course, those who already know data science and machine learning and those who want to specialize in areas of finance. So say for example, today we discussed about this ChatGPT and the GPT model. So essentially, they can do specialized modules like generative AI for finance, where all this GPT and other LLM models are actually being taught in context of finance. And then somebody wants to specialize in understanding machine learning applications in trading or risk management or derivative valuations. You have courses to teach you the specialized applications of data science, machine learning in each of these areas of trading, risk management, or derivative valuation. The only thing is, if you directly want to go into this kind of courses, you need some prior background of data science and machine learning. If you don't have that, then you ideally should learn data science, machine learning either from our long duration courses like AI for finance or data science for finance or machine learning for finance, or you may learn from somewhere else. But to come to this point, when you understand the specialized areas of application areas in finance, you definitely first need to know data science, machine learning, in quite deep actually, right? So these are things which you can utilize, and maybe I'll not spend much time, but this is just to showcase in the last more than 1.5 decades, we have been fortunate to have a lot of professionals and students who have done our courses. Just to showcase how, anybody can use our courses to make a deep career, right? So these are just few small examples, not to promote our courses as such, but more to showcase how, any professional or student can utilize our courses to enter into this kind of analytical areas of finance, right? Anybody interested, the placement support is something we definitely work very strongly on, and it starts as soon as you start interacting with us. With the career counseling, basically we try to understand your background requirement, and then even might suggest the right way to go about it, right courses and all. It starts from at that level, and then of course during the course and post course, all courses are taught by people who are in leadership position from the industry, like Ritesh, and then there are so many other of our mentors who come from like leadership positions in the industry. So all the faculties are like, again, they are all holding leadership positions in the quant, machine learning, or risk management, or algorithmic trading or quant trading areas in the industry, right? So you can leverage that. As I was mentioning, there's a dedicated placement support team. They help you in the entire process: resume building, interview preparation, your LinkedIn profiling, sending your resume to the right companies, following up, getting you the interview calls. So they help you in the entire process. By leveraging our solid connect with the industry, so that they help you in all of that. All right, so I'm not going into the target companies. As we all know, these are all part of the all advanced financial institutions like hedge funds and investment banks, international banks, domestic banks, stock exchanges, big four consulting firms, IT companies, and all these are all target areas, right? And of course, again, not to forget in current context, even the fintech organizations, right? So these are all kind of profiles. Yes, I mean, being in the uh, quant industry for, again, I mean, as a trainer for like, again, for more than 16 years now. So practically we have worked with most of the people who are, I mean, or the most of the companies who are in the quant space, right? Be it the international banks or before consulting firms, trading desk, commercial banks, stock exchanges. So everybody, I mean, we have been associated fortunately for the, and yes, as a part of our endeavor to promote the field, we have closely worked with a lot of educational institutes as well. And this is again a small list of educational bodies we do try to collaborate with to promote, get this field more known in the student community as well, right? So yes, and anyone interested in communicating with us, I mean, in discussing things with us, may not only for courses, but you need any guidance, information regarding any of this, please feel free to connect with us. This is, I mean, through our website, through our, I mean, you can connect to our phone numbers. So, then of course, you can email as well, and we'll be happy to discuss and connect. All right. Okay, so let's now like maybe go to the questions. People are waiting with the questions. So essentially, like again, I hope Ritesh has also got like a quick good breather. So let's go to the questions now.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me collate the questions one by one. Okay, so very interesting. Sudhamsu actually, like again, he actually is like pursuing his BA LLB at SIU Bangalore. I mean, of course, it's a very good college. And he has a keen interest in working at the intersection of law and finance. Interesting, Sudhamsu. And look forward to this section as an opportunity to enhance both my legal and financial understanding. Hope you got some basic idea. Of course, as I said, we would be very happy to discuss one-on-one as well. I mean, in terms of you will need any further guidance. And if you have any quick questions, please feel free to put up. Okay. Now, like going to the questions, first question we'll take from is Sanjay Veer, and he mentions how to make sure GPT is not hallucinating, and how do we know the accuracy of the responses given?
So I told you, I mean, at the end of the day, that's why I kept harping upon the fact that don't treat whatever ChatGPT or any AI model is saying as the gospel truth. It is only giving you a
Absolutely.
first cut response. That is why you need to have that domain knowledge. You need to have an understanding, because a lot of times, in fact, I remember till some time ago, ChatGPT could not even solve basic algebra questions correctly. So they would give you some gibberish answers. So if you think of ChatGPT as something from which you can just cut, copy, and paste, then you are in for a big shock. Unfortunately, a lot of people are treating it like that. But if you look at ChatGPT as something which can improve your productivity, I think, for example, Nitish gave a very good answer regarding that programming language knowledge. So while you need to know the programming language, but what ChatGPT can help you do, it can help you steepen your learning curve. A lot of stuff where you would have, taken months, now you can learn that in weeks. So you need to still focus on your learning. You still need to focus on domain expertise, and whatever ChatGPT gives, always try to do a check on that, whether it makes sense or not. So it's just an assistant. Ultimately, you have to review the work of the assistant so that the assistant is not hallucinating. I hope that answers your question.
No, absolutely. That's how it is. Maybe like in future, these things will again become even more intelligent. That's it is bound to. But yeah, I mean, we have to keep checks and balances.
Just to add on to that answer, Nitish, uh, to avoid hallucination, you can also use the techniques of good prompting. So if you craft clear prompts, specific prompts. So for example, instead of saying to ChatGPT, explain capital requirements. If you say explain Basel III capital requirements for a bank, say having $100 billion risk-weighted assets, focusing on their CET1 ratio and include some numerical examples, you will get a much better response. So if you have a context-based, well-crafted specific prompt, a lot of hallucination can be avoided. Hallucination also happens because our prompts themselves are completely vague. So it takes that vagueness to a different level altogether. Yeah, thanks.
True. And absolutely, you are right. Okay. So yes. So yeah, next question is actually from Sudhamsu, about whom I mentioned in the beginning. So the questions, there are actually two to three questions. So maybe like again, let me go to the questions one by one. First question is, to what extent can ChatGPT or similar generative models be effectively leveraged for generating complex Excel sheet templates? Additionally, would iterative prompting be effective to achieve this? Is it even worth doing this on an LLM? I think you have anyway covered most of that, but if you want to add anything.
Yeah, so I mean, with ChatGPT, Sudhanshu, to answer your question, if you do a Excel-based exercise, a lot of times I have seen asking the user whether you want a downloadable Excel template for that. So one way is that whatever it is telling you to do, because it gives you the exact cells, what formulae, what inputs you should put in the cell, so you can do it yourself. It further reduces your burden and says that, do you want me to give it everything as a downloadable Excel template? You can do it. I mean, what level of complexity? I think as long as ChatGPT is able to solve that question in terms of an Excel format, the downloadable prompt should also work fine. But again, once you download the Excel sheet, it's always good to at least do a basic sanity check.
Absolutely. And second part of his question is, are all large language models evolving at the same rate? Or is it advisable to remain flexible and adapt newer or more advanced models as they emerge?
So you're seeing that advancement in most of them, Sudhanshu. I mean, every day you keep reading about what's happening with DeepSeek, what's happening with ChatGPT. Of course, I mean, as time progresses, for example, there was a news a couple of days ago that DeepSeek has done a refinement to their mathematics model, the model which gives proof of mathematical theorems. Okay, so all of them are evolving. I think ultimately you have to probably select one, stick with that. A lot of times you may also, try a couple of them and see which gives you a better response. It's like, let me give you an analogy. If you have to book an air ticket, you don't restrict yourself to make my trip alone. You go to Yatra also, you go to Ease My Trip also. So I think that's a part and parcel of the job, to figure out where are you getting the best response from. And that again brings us to the point that you shouldn't have a cut, copy, paste mentality. The mentality is to figure out which model is giving me the most relevant response. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I hope that answers your question, Sudhamsu. Any follow-up questions, please feel free to put up. But in the meantime, let's go to the next question, which is from Nikhil. So Nikhil first mentions, sir, I really learned a lot from this session. Wonderful to know that, Nikhil. It's always great to know that like your time is well spent. Okay, so now my question is, I worked on a project where I analyzed mutual fund schemes using ratios like standard deviation, Sortino, and alpha. Along with my own analysis, I shared the same data with LLMs like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok to see if they arrived at similar conclusions. Okay. Ritesh sir, is this a good technique? I think Ritesh has already answered that almost in your in the last the questions that we answered for Sudhamsu. But anything you want to add, Ritesh?
I mean, see, if you are a complete domain expert, as long as you are able to, understand all the nuances of that analysis, even if you use only one of the models, you can, ultimately refine your report further. But it's not a bad idea if you're a beginner. who is also trying to learn, or if you are trying to understand the different aspects by which the same problem can be solved, it's not a bad idea to just check couple of these models, because see, what happens is, while all of them are LLM models, but the ultimate architecture has certain differences. And if you ask them the same question, they will give different answers, or at least in terms of, how much they explain, how verbose they are, how they are going to, the kind of numerical examples they are going to give. So I don't think it's a bad idea to, run it past a couple of them and then pick up the best one. I mean, that's again a technique of refinement, nothing else.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Plus,
Going to the
uh,
next.
by
Yeah,
by
sorry.
running it through a couple of them, it also helps you catch any incorrect things or any errors in one of the analysis. So it's like
Absolutely.
a maker checker kind of a thing.
Correct. Absolutely. All right. So going to the next question is from Gaurav, and he has a couple of questions. First, what are some other AI tools for financial analysis? Free access allowed. And second part of his question is how to strengthen domain knowledge. Please guide some resources. Okay. So let's address the first question first. AI tools for financial analysis, Ritesh. Any specific
So
thing you
AI
want to
tools
mention?
for financial analysis, okay, if I can, some of them which I have seen, I mean, I'm just keep reading newspapers or reading the various newsletters, not newspapers exactly, the newsletters. Uh, so you have to, the way I would look at that is, ultimately financial analysis is not some homogeneous thing. You involve machine learning, it involves natural language processing, it involves predictive analytics. You can be using financial analysis for the purpose of regulatory capital, for the purpose of risk management. So a good idea is just to Google and try to figure out if there are any specific tools for each of these tasks. So for example, there is a tool called Vena Insight. Vena is VENA, Vena Insight. I happened to look at that tool some time ago. It's a financial planning and analysis platform, FP&A. So it uses, so what they have done, they have integrated that AI ML tool with Microsoft Power BI for the purpose of budgeting, forecasting, and reporting. And you can do predictive analytics, you can do customized dashboards. So similarly, you have all these things like ChatGPT 4.0. They have a custom financial statement analyzer. Or instead of using the chat GPT, use the domain specific GPT. So for example, chat GPT may, if you go, you will find finance GPT. Okay. So, so try to find those specific tools. Then there is a platform called Kensho. So Kensho, Finance GPT. There is a tool called Julius AI. I don't know how many of them use it. It's a wonderful tool for doing statistical analysis. I mean, it gives you a lot of details. It generates Python code and explains it very beautifully. It's dedicated to that. So Julius AI, again, I have used it sometimes and I find it quite interesting, quite capable. So there are Hajar tools actually. The best thing is you will have to hit and try. Search on Google
True.
for exactly what you are looking for, and then try it and see whichever fits your requirement.
Absolutely. Okay. So next part of the question is how to strengthen domain knowledge. Please guide some resources.
Reading and practicing domain knowledge. So where will you get it from? By reading and practicing, and probably attending IIQF classes. No, I'm just kidding. So
Gaurav,
I
it
mean,
depends on like
domain
again
knowledge is
probably
about
what.
reading books, reading newspaper, reading relevant things, and doing connecting to people, asking questions. That's how you build up domain knowledge over a period of time.
True, absolutely. So there is no substitute to reading, Gaurav. I mean, whatever resources it can be. I mean, if you want to acquire knowledge in any domain, first step is to actually read and try to understand that, and then of course connect with other domain experts. There are a lot of mediums in which we connect. I mean, there are courses that you can do. There are other like resources where you can connect to people through LinkedIn and all of other lot of areas actually. But again, only thing is to work on that domain side. It can be reading, it can be from videos, audios, whatever, right? But yeah, I mean, there is no substitute to that hard work. And as Ritesh mentioned, I mean, using this kind of GPT kind of models, even to learn, understand the field also is like, again, it can be a good way to maybe fast track your understanding. But yes, the primary domain knowledge, you have to read that field. I mean, read related to books or whatever in that field. That's like definitely needed to get the basic idea. All right, going to the next question. Sorry, Ritesh, you want to add anything?
In fact, I just posted a link to a website which talks about some of the tools for AI tools for finance teams. So those who are interested, they can look at that. Yeah.
All right, let me just hope you all can see the link, but maybe like again, I'll post it again here for all your understanding. Yes, anybody interested in like gaining more knowledge, please, I mean, check the link that has been posted in the Q&A section. All right, now like again, we are almost about time. We do have like 3-4 questions to go, so maybe like we'll quickly take up the rest of the questions. Okay, so next question is from Kunal. Is there any platform where you can learn the accurate prompt for specific type of Q&A? Basically, he's asking for platforms to understand prompt engineering, Ritesh.
No, yes, I think Kunal, again, to give you an analogy, it's like asking, is there any platform where I can learn English language? So prompt, think of it, see, prompt is not only a hard skill, it's also a soft skill. It's also about improving your ability to write. Okay, it's quite ironical that ultimately tech will not require you to write anymore, but it will require you to type your questions in a better format. So again, I'm not aware of any platform, Kunal, but the principles of effective prompting you can find. There are Hajar websites that talk about the principles of effective prompting. In a nutshell, think about it. If someone asks you a question, how do you think they should craft the question so that you can give a relevant answer? Just follow those good principles. Keep it concise, keep it relevant, provide the required information, ask them what do you want, in which format you want. If you just keep sticking to these five, six basic things, your prompting ability will improve a lot. And then, of course, I mean, once you are, so for, if I ask you, if I tell you how I actually do it, when I do it the first time, I basically start with a simple prompt and then I try to build upon it. And once, so I mean, 5 or 6 iterations max, you would have built a good prompt. And once you have built a good prompt, store it in a template or a Word doc. So next time, I mean, you've done the hard work, put it in a template, and over a period of time, you yourself will have a template, or you will have a repository or a library of templates. Then I have seen people on Google, they post these libraries, so you can check from that. But of course, I mean, you can learn it yourself. Just stick to some of the basic principles of writing a good prompt. Use things like chain of thought, tree of thought. Just learn about those concepts and try to stick to those concepts. And by and large, 80% of your work will be done in a good manner.
Wonderful. Right. So I hope that answers your question, Kunal. Okay, going to the next question is from Harish. So Harish says that requesting to throw some light on the financial compliance aspects of generative AI. Would you like to speak on that, Ritesh?
Financial compliance. See, I think in regulated environment, because generative AI is prone to hallucination, also you exactly don't know how the neural network threw its answers, and there is the issue of data security and data integrity. So in most of the corporate environments, they do not allow you to use ChatGPT. Okay, if that is the part of the question, or is there anything else that you want to check about?
Yeah, Harish, you may type any follow-up on that actually. Ritesh has asked. So,
So I mean, as I told you, so because Gen AI is prone to cyber attack, it is prone to things like hallucination. So from a financial compliance perspective, I would say that in most of the banks and financial institutions, they would not allow a public chat GPT to be active in their environment. What some of the large banks, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they have done, they have developed their own enterprise version of this, or they might have collaborated with OpenAI for that, something which guarantees data security, which is only, it's like being hosted only on the intranet instead of being hosted on the internet.
right, absolutely. All right. So, maybe like this is the last question we'll take for the day, and any because most of the other questions actually we have already taken out in some form or the other while addressing the other questions. Okay, so this question is from Durga Prasad. So he mentions, "Hi, this is Durga Prasad, and he's from Hyderabad. I am from stockbroking background. My specific question is, whenever a company files the DRHP with SEBI, I want to understand the value chain of that particular company, like raw material sourcing, plant, production process, revenue model, distribution channel, and their customers. Do I need to upload DRHP to ChatGPT and start asking?
Yeah,
Start
I mean,
asking questions one by one. Sorry, the question is long, so some part of it was hidden. Allow me to complete. So do I need to upload the DRHP to ChatGPT and start asking questions one by
I
one? Please give
I
me a
don't
small gist.
Okay, I have never tried it personally. I will have to check, but my preliminary answer to that would be that the DRHP itself is a huge document. Okay, not sure if, because I think in most of these models, in most of these LLMs, they have a size restriction on what size of document you can upload. But the
Right.
point is ultimately what ChatGPT is doing, it is scraping the web. So if the DRHP is available in the public domain on SEBI's website, most probably you don't have to upload the DRHP. You can simply say, a good way to craft the response, the prompt would be that refer to the DRHP on SEBI's website dated so and so and answer the following questions. Yeah, based on the DRHP that they have recently filed, it should be able to learn from that data.
Right. Right. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. All right. So I think with that, we have typically addressed most of the questions. Let me see anything from the other questions that we need to take up. Oh no, I think we are good actually. I mean, we have addressed most of the questions, and those who are remaining actually, I mean, those are questions we have already addressed in some of the other form in the while addressing the earlier questions. So I think with that, we come to the end of the session. First of all, thanks once again, Ritesh, for the wonderful session and for your patience in answering all the questions. And to the audience as well,
I
thank
will
you.
just take a minute, Nitish. I think someone had a question about the financial compliance part. I'll just
Right.
try to add a couple of lines. Uh,
Sure, please,
see,
please.
one aspect of financial compliance is data privacy and data security. Okay.
Right.
So one thing is that you don't allow a public platform like ChatGPT to be included in the corporate environment, but then there are regulations also around that. Like European Union has GDPR. California recently came up with a regulation called CCPA. Then in India you have DPI regulations. So these regulations also cover Gen AI data which is being trained on customer data. So if the Gen AI model is being trained on customer data, then the regulations say that the Gen AI model has to be hosted, say, only on a secure and compliant platform like a private cloud so that data leaks can be prevented. Similarly, it says that whenever you make an input prompt, then the data has to be anonymized so that the identity of people cannot be disclosed. So things like that. So there are regulations. I just thought it will be good to know about that as well. And similarly, about the hallucination part, see, ultimately hallucination can lead to incorrect financial reports, which can result in regulatory violations. Okay, so all regulators, they ask you to have AI output which is explainable. So explainable AI is a big thing, especially in the
Absolutely.
financial services domain these days. One way to achieve explainability in your day-to-day life is to use chain of thought prompting. So when you use chain of thought prompting and ask the model to show step by step how they arrived at the result, it essentially becomes like an explainable result, and you can figure out any errors in that line of reasoning. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this explainable AI part, actually, we have covered in like again some of our sessions. So those who are interested, they can actually look at our other machine learning and data science based webinar sessions. The recordings of most of them are there in the website. You can always go and check the recordings of previous sessions as well. Anyway, like again, okay, so once again, like again, with that we conclude the session, and thanks once again, Ritesh, actually, for taking your time out. It was a wonderful session. Thanks for your patience in answering all the questions.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you all the participants as well for taking your time out and attending the session on a Sunday. Good to see your interest. And I mean, as you all know, I mean, we do keep conducting regular sessions as a part of our webinar series, deep dive with IIQF experts, where experts like Ritesh and a lot of other faculty members and other industry experts, they come and talk about various important topics in financial analytics, risk management, algorithmic trading, quant, machine learning, data science, and all related areas, right? So keep track of our website for all future sessions, for social media pages, and of course, again, you might receive uh, emails, intimating about future webinars as well, right? So keep track of all our channels and pages, and hope to see you again in all the webinars in future. See you again. Thank you. Thank you all.